Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're talking about the international bestseller Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is one of those novels which I was amazed after reading because when I read it for the first time and when I was picking up in a bookshop, I got recommended it on Instagram, and when I got this recommendation about reading this book, I did not know why people are recommending me this book because it said its genre says thriller, and that time when I picked this book I was too much into thriller, so I picked this book. I read this immediately after reading The Silent Patient, and The Dark Matter was it actually turned out to be a really good book. And it is a thriller, I would say, definitely, but it has some other genre as well, and we are going to explore everything about this book. In today's video I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives, things which I loved, things I think should have been better, and I'll also tell you why should you read this book. Before we get into the video, it's important to know about the author, and the author is Blake Crouch. I did not know his name before I read this book. So he's an American author. He's known for his works in science fiction, thriller, mystery genres. He was born in Northern California. I mean, that's just an extra information. Who cares, right? In addition to Dark Matter, he's also written books like Recursion and Wayward Pines trilogy. So, okay, I'll be honest, I have not read these, but I have read Dark Matter, and that's the sole book that I have read of that author. There was this one unique genre which I explored from this book, and that was science fiction. And before reading this book, all I have heard about science fiction was from Christopher Nolan, and I'm a big fan of Nolan's works because I respect him as a filmmaker and a director. I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers ever. Um, but Interstellar, Inception, Dunkirk, these were the films that I have watched, and these were the films that had some elements of science fiction. Okay, if we just exclude Dunkirk, Inception and Interstellar were solely based on science fiction. So those are the only works I have been familiar that had science fiction in it. But then this probably was the first book that I read which had science fiction as its genre. And this was very interesting and very intriguing at the same time. So, the number one thing that I loved about this book was the intriguing premise. So, it starts with a very big concept and a mind bending concept of multiverse theory, which I was only familiar to when I watched Marvel stories. So, exploring the consequences of one's actions, and the protagonist here starts with Jason Dason, tricky name, but we'll address him Mr. Jason. The novel's premise is both very intellectual and unique at the same time. I feel that it gathers the reader's attention in the very first page itself because it starts in a very pacing and a suspenseful manner. So you might think when there are concepts of science fiction, you might think that the writing style might be very very complicated, but it's not. It's actually very accessible and it's very approachable for any layman. So despite the fact that there are complex scientific ideas, I feel that the author has presented it in such a way that it is very easy for you to read, and it's very easy for you to comprehend what the writer is trying to say. So accessibility is basically very very good for both seasoned science fiction readers, and also the readers who are new. Really loved the way the character development takes place. I mean, the plot is developing perfectly, but at the same time, simultaneously, the protagonist, Jason Dessen, Mr. Jason, undergoes a significant character development throughout the whole story, and his emotional journey, his exploration of identity and choices, they resonate with the readers. And it feels like there's this conceptual, successful blend that the writer has tried to put in, and there are high concept ideas with a character driven narrative, and I feel that that's the perfect choice of any writer and any reader at the same time. So I love the character development, I love the plot development, I love that the fact that it comes out with a different concept which not many writers choose to experiment with. After talking so many good things about this book, here are a few suggestions that I would have suggested if I was there. And Mr. Blake has done an absolutely wonderful job while writing this book. But at the same time, there were a few points which I feel I don't address much in the videos. Some negative points, but just don't take it negatively. It's like the points which I feel can be a constructive criticism. I'm not going to roast the author or troll him for anything. I think he's done an absolutely wonderful job while writing this book, but at the same time, there are some negatives that we should talk about. While I talked about the book in a very good manner and I talked about its positives, this is the time to think about some of the negative points. I won't say negative is a very, very derogatory word for any author. I would say that this is my view of reading this novel, and I feel that there were some points where I felt that, after a certain page, I was able to guess and I was able to predict certain things and certain events. So if you have read the book, I mean, there is no spoiler in this chapter, in this whole chapter of this video, or in this portion. I'm going to keep it spoiler free, but if you have read the book, if you have read this Dark Matter, I'm sure you would be able to relate with me. So predictability was there, and I think the writer has done an absolutely a great job while writing this book. But this was one point where I felt that after a certain page, it was like it is predictable. So I think predictability was there. Number two is scientific accuracy. While I feel that when I went on Google and I went on Goodreads, and many people were saying that scientific accuracy is not there. But I feel that when we're talking about fiction, we shouldn't question anything the author tells us, because you cannot do that. You cannot attach it with real theories and real scientific theories, because it's fiction at the end of the day. So again, scientific accuracy is not there, but for readers, I think for readers who seek a more rigorous explanation, this book is not for them, because at the end of the day, it's a fiction novel and the plot has to go on, right? Number three is character motivation. I feel the character development has gone really well, but why the character chooses to do certain things, the motivation is not that clarified, and the motivation is not that listed well. So I feel that motivation should have been a bit more clarified. That would have helped the plot a bit more. So three main things that I love in this book. Number one, engaging premise. It talks about the mind-bending concept of multiverse. Number two, the pace. And number three, the character development. I think all three things have been on point, and I loved this entire book so much that I want to reread it once I get time from my own projects. While some critics might say a lot of things about this book, I feel that this is one of the greatest and one of the greatest books for beginners who want to read or start reading science fiction thrillers. Here are 5 book recommendations. If you loved The Dark Matter, or if you want to read more similar books like Dark Matter, here are 5 books that you will absolutely love. Number 1, Dune. It was like one of the greatest releases of all time. Number 2 is Neuromancer. Number 3 is Snow Crash. Number 4 is The Left Hand of Darkness. And number 5 is The Three Body Problem. I will provide the links of all the books in the description box below. So make sure you check them out. Make sure you check Dark Matter out. If you have already read it, do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And we'll meet next Sunday with a Hindi episode, and then the next Sunday with an English episode. So till then, bye bye.